order to decarbonize, it sounds counterintuitive, but we need to invest a lot more in mining for all the minerals we need for batteries, for solar cells, for wind turbines, and that involves using more energy to mine, using more energy to process these minerals. And that's really something I think many people are not aware of, which is to go green, we need to actually build a whole new industrial supply chain. And for many countries like the US and Europe, this is often starting from scratch. So this really is, like I think John Kerry has said, like a new industrial revolution that we need to carry out to build the supply chains to supply all of these green technologies. When we look at critical minerals, you've got sort of two areas. You've got one where we have minerals already being supplied to industrial applications such as steel, stainless steel, electric wiring, etc. And they all need to increase in supply to meet clean energy demand. But then we have minerals where the markets up until now are quite small and niche, such as lithium, and we need to scale up production from quite a low base in a very short amount of time. So, lithium demand probably this decade will double, so we need to rapidly increase production. So you've got these two sort of areas, and some minerals are more abundant than others. I mean, lithium is abundant. You just need to be able to build the mines and the processing. But something like copper, we've been mining copper for a long time. And in a way, we've already mined the easy deposits. So now we have to find and mine the harder deposits. So each mineral varies. But I would also say that it's not just the mining, it's also the processing. And processing to a high purity, such as lithium, you need to produce a battery grade lithium. So it's not as simple as just digging out the raw material. We need to build and construct all of the stages of the supply chain to produce a high purity material that can go into something like a battery, and the battery doesn't catch fire, right? And it all works perfectly. This is one of the key problems in a lot of commodity markets, is you have price volatility. And often when you need to invest is when there isn't an incentive to invest. So right now, lithium prices have fallen a lot. But now is when we do need to invest to meet the demand later in this decade. So that's really the problem for the industry. And that's also creates volatility. That's why you have these periods of shortages and high prices, is because there wasn't enough investment before. But the reason lithium is especially volatile is, as I said, it was quite a small market before batteries came along, and it's expanding rapidly. And most lithium projects are delayed or over budget. So the supply side response is not easy to predict and can be quite not smooth.
One of the companies that we were engaging with recently that was very super cool is this company that is looking to extract specific minerals. So basically focused on a multiple step process that does the extraction of certain minerals from waste streams, and then reaggregation, and then reutilization of those extracted minerals for novel applications, and how they basically are looking to focus on in ensuring the quality of those minerals, the qualities of those renovated or recovered materials for applications in batteries, applications within, say, novel products where they can still qualify as virgin materials.
The circular economy is really promising, and that's the direction we need to move. If you look at some industrial metals now, some have a very high recycling rate, such as lead, and even the lead acid batteries in gasoline cars are highly recycled. So eventually we need to move to that position. The problem is we're scaling up production very quickly to meet demand. So we do need mining to supply the minerals that will then be recycled. But where there's huge potential now is recycling some of the waste from all these new gigafactories that are being built. If you think of the hundreds of gigafactories that are planned, they don't produce at 100% yield. So So a lot of waste is coming, and that is providing an opportunity for recyclers to hone their processes, to find material that can then go back into the battery supply chain. And we're seeing recycling companies sometimes co-locating near battery gigafactories to be able to access that source. The biggest issue for recycling is getting hold of the source material to recycle. So, that is an issue going forward, but it's solved in some sense by this gigafactory waste scrap, and then eventually the batteries from EVs and other applications will come back and they can be recycled. A lot of these clean energy industries, the reason they're so hard is they can be low margin businesses, right? And how do Western companies compete with Chinese companies in these low margin businesses? I think that's a fundamental challenge for Western companies. There's a reason venture capital has liked software companies for so long, right? Is because they have high margins, right? Whereas these businesses are really quite tough to make money from. And even in electric vehicles, we're seeing today that the big legacy automotive companies are making losses on electric vehicles. So it's really not an easy industry to make money of. And I think what we're going to see is consolidation probably in China, going forward, where a lot of new entrants probably won't survive at these price levels. And that often happens in China, and we saw it in solar before. And then we see consolidation, and then the margins could improve for those remaining. I can't predict, but I think it's it's a tricky market in a way, because also a lot depends on consumers, and we've seen rising interest rates, we've seen inflation, obviously. So consumers are not in the best position at the moment as well. So a lot depends on them buying EVs, buying solar panels, etc. So that's also a concern. Right now, the geopolitics of the whole clean energy industry and the clean energy supply chain is particularly acute. This is really driven by US-China relations, and I guess the effort by the US and its allies to diversify away from China to what they're calling de-risk from China. And this essentially means that companies are under a lot of pressure to help build these supply chains that don't involve China. And the issue is that China dominates the sort of processing of lithium. So while Australia is the largest producer of spodumene lithium, it's all processed in China. So the West really needs to build, the processing capability, and then the other steps in the supply chain in order to use that lithium to make batteries. But the countries that hold the resources in Latin America that you mentioned, they also want to get more value out of their resources, and they want companies who can bring new technologies, such as direct lithium extraction, that can increase the yield and reduce the impact. They also want more value add in their countries, such as cathode production, other stages of the supply chain. So right now, everyone's sort of jostling and trying to get the best deal, make the most out of their resources. A lot of these countries in Latin America, Africa, when they look at the US-China fight, they don't necessarily think of it as their fight, and they're trying often to diversify or trying to get the best deal for them. So that's key to think about when we think about the geopolitics. The promise of new technologies is great, where we could lower the carbon emission footprint of processing minerals. But to date, we haven't seen sort of large commercial success for a lot of these new technologies. So that is to come, and that could alter the cost curve of the market and change the market. It's a really interesting question, because I think from China's point of view, they rely on imports of lithium, like they do for oil, gas, and copper. And they're facing a more hostile world, right? Which I think is, as you say, it could be challenging to secure all the resources they need. So they have to continually invest in new places, new countries. Africa's seen a lot of Chinese investment in lithium. So you're right, the US and Europe, we have a network of allies around the world. We have these, in the case of the US, the free trade agreement relationships. So once we've built the supply chains, we could be in a good position to access raw materials. In addition, there are areas of Europe and North America with hydropower that could help clean up the production of these minerals. And we're seeing clusters form in Quebec in North America. And we're seeing perhaps in Sweden the use of hydropower also to produce these battery minerals. So there are a lot of advantages the West does have. In addition, with the subsidies available in the Inflation Reduction Act, the production tax credits, that could really help the US compete with China.